Part 48. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 472. Patriarch. The great elder held a crutch in his hand and said softly, some time ago, the earthly immortal world merged with other worlds. Although the world level has changed, but the longevity of some ancestors, still not much left. In the past, the Qin clan had a profound foundation. They used some pills that could change their fate against the heavens to help these ancestors breathe their last breath, in order to prepare for what changes would happen to the clan one day. By then, these ancestors, they all jumped out and fought with all their strength. The last battle was also a force that could turn the tide of the war. Unfortunately, their lifespan should have been exhausted long ago. Even if the world level has improved, it is still a drop in the bucket for them. Unless the entire Earth immortal realm rises to a higher level again. In this way, they will have no worries. Now, if the Patriarch rushes to look for them, maybe several ancestors can be sent away with just one conversation. This situation is not what the Great Elder wants. What you need to see is that after all, one ancestor has just died, and several other ancestors are being sent away, then the Qin family has destroyed the Great Wall. Great Elder, don't worry. Qin Xianlang took a deep breath and said softly, I know it well. He just wanted to verify whether there was any problem with these ancestors. If there is no problem, that would be the best. If there is a problem, it can only be solved as soon as possible. The longer it is delayed, the more detrimental it will be to the Qin family. He just finished speaking. Qin Xianlang turned around and walked towards the back mountain. But his footsteps had not yet fallen. Boom! A deafening roar came, shaking hundreds of thousands of miles around. A terrifying breath rose into the sky and shattered the clouds in the sky. It was like volcanoes erupting, and the terrifying power was like a tide. Spread. In an instant, it swept through the entire Qin clan. Before countless clan members could react, it suddenly exploded into a bloody mist. Great Emperor! Many elders of the Qin clan were shocked. A great emperor released his own aura without any restraint. Even a saint could not resist it, let alone some beings who were not as good as a saint. Just these auras appeared. It can be said that it directly reduced the underlying combat power of the Qin clan. Fortunately, at the critical moment, the mountain protecting formation of the Qin clan was activated, which helped offset most of the power, but even so, it remained the Qin family suffered huge losses. How is this going? What happened? Why does it have the power of an emperor? The expressions of many elders in the Qin clan changed drastically. They all looked in the direction where the aura was spreading. When they found the exact location, everyone took a breath of cold air. The back mountain. That's the place. The Qin clan's forbidden area contains many ancestors who are in retreat. Could it be that a certain ancestor has gone crazy and wants to take action against his descendants? Roar. A roar that didn't sound like a human voice came. It made people's hearts tremble. It seemed like an ancient evil demon had appeared from the sky. With this roar, extremely rich yin qi erupted in the direction of the back mountain. The entire ancestral land of the Qin family seemed to have been reduced to a hell on earth. In the gray-black yin qi that filled the sky, two green light pillars soared into the sky, connecting the sky, shining brightly, overwhelming the world. Bang! There was another loud noise. In the back mountain, several mountains collapsed, and majestic figures walked out one after another among the rocks. Their clothes were torn, and they were somewhere between reality and illusion. They looked extremely terrifying. They were thick fog enveloped this place, which was shocking. Everyone was frightened. This kind of pressure was too terrifying, and every member of the Qin clan felt a little familiar. This is. The elders of the Qin clan were all shocked. When they saw a figure among them, they seemed to have remembered something and exclaimed. The sixth patriarch. After extremely long years, many great emperors were born in the Qin clan, among which the sixth ancestor was considered a standout. After the old ancestor, he was one of the closest figures to a true immortal. It's a pity that he was not lucky enough. Until he died, he could not break through. It has to be said. This incident has become a regret for the Qin family. Otherwise, there would be at least one true immortal in the Qin family. Didn't the sixth patriarch sit down for tens of millions of years? How could he be resurrected again? Many elders of the Qin clan were extremely shocked. In the far distance, that majestic figure stood on the ground, with piercing eyes and surging energy and blood. He was holding an emaciated figure in his hand. The person who was pinched was also an ancestor. Although he is still alive, his whole body strength has been imprisoned, as if the sixth patriarch could crush him to death with just a little force. Originally, the two were both great emperors, so the gap should not be so big. But, this one, the sixth patriarch, was so powerful that he defeated all invincible opponents at the same level during his lifetime. Now that he has been resurrected, he seems to have reached the peak of his lifetime strength. On the other hand, the person he held in his hands was about to die. Even the great emperor, with all his strength, and it is difficult to perform at will. More importantly, in the Qin clan, who would have thought that an ancestor would suddenly be resurrected and would take action against his own clan? He was suppressed by a single move, either intentionally or unintentionally. It's also reasonable. How could this be? Qin Xianlang also felt that his mind was a little confused. The senior did remind him to be careful of the ancestors in the clan, but he never expected that the senior would be talking about the fallen ancestors. This scene suddenly happened, even he was caught off guard. Let's all take action together to suppress the sixth patriarch first and rescue the 17th patriarch. There was no time to think about it. Qin Xianlang spoke quickly. Before he could finish his words, there was a bigger noise. In the direction of the back mountain, tombs exploded, and ancient figures walked out of them. There are great emperors, quasi-emperors, great sages, and even saint kings. There are simply too many of them. Over the long years, the Qin family has given birth to countless amazing and talented people. These people have laid the foundation for the Qin family. A strong foundation. But no one thought that today would become the biggest stumbling block for the Qin family. In the past, whether it was the Qin family or other powerful forces, whenever an elder in the clan or sect died, it would inevitably it is to be buried within the clan. Because, if it is placed in the outside world, no one can guarantee whether it will be remembered. After all, the corpse of the saint is a treasure, and the body of the emperor can be said to be full of treasures. In addition, there are countless funerary objects. If they can be dug out, it is not an exaggeration to say that they will be rich. In order to avoid this, many forces will not let their elders be buried in the outside world, but this move will countless people were caught off guard. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 473. The Sixth Patriarch. Qin Xianlang took a step forward, and the void exploded. He shouted in a deep voice. The sound was like a loud bell. It shook the void for thousands of miles. He wanted to use this to wake up the sixth patriarch. The sixth patriarch came back to life. This is for the Qin family. It is a good thing to say. But if he is allowed to continue to act so arbitrarily, it will be a disaster for the Qin family. Descendants of the Qin clan. The black figure raised his head. He had a majestic body, holding a great emperor in one hand, and holding the other hand behind his back. He was full of evil aura. He was like a demon lord. He looked over with a pair of green eyes, sinister. The compassion was extremely terrifying. Especially after he opened his mouth, countless people's scalps went numb. This sixth patriarch, he was actually conscious. At the very least, he recognized that the people present were all descendants of the Qin family. That being the case, why would he take action? Sixth Patriarch, what's wrong with you? The 17th ancestor is also your descendant. An elder from the Qin clan shouted loudly. If you don't become an immortal, you will eventually scratch the lowest. I came back today to lead you to eternal life. Only the underworld is the destination of all souls. The black figure made a low voice, and a pair of eyes swept across the void. No one dared to look at it. Sixth Patriarch, are you now a member of the underworld? Qin Xianlang took a step forward, his whole body steaming with momentum, like a blazing sun, rising slowly, blooming billions of rays of brilliance, shining on the 9 heavens and 10 earth. Faintly. He was competing with the sixth patriarch. He had long been the master of Tianji. He learned the news about the underworld from the mouth of the sixth patriarch, so he was not too surprised when the word underworld came out of his mouth. The only thing that surprised him was that the underworld came so fast. He didn't have time to react. The underworld of Hades. The other elders frowned and said, no. Qin Xianlang shook his head and said in a deep voice, it's the underworld of other worlds. It's a terrifying force. According to the senior master of Tianji Tower, even if all the earthly and immortal worlds are put together, they are no match for the underworld. The expressions of many elders suddenly changed. The earthly immortal realm is already not weak, but today the clan leader said that the entire earthly immortal realm combined is no match for the underworld. So how terrifying must this underworld be? Especially. This is what the owner of Tianji said. In this case, there is no need to think too much about the authenticity of this matter. The 4 words Tianji Luzu are now authoritative. No one dares to question. Good. The sixth patriarch nodded. He looked into the void, his green eyes full of enthusiasm, and said softly, the underworld is about to come to this world. If you and your descendants don't surrender, they will die. Today I am resurrected and come back just to lead you and others on the road to eternal life. Did you really come? Qin Xianlang was not panicked. He said coldly, I'm afraid, this time, there will be no return from hell. There is no Tianji Tower in the earthly immortal realm, but now that the world has merged, there is no difference between the earthly immortal realm and the Tianyuan realm. If the underworld really comes, judging from today's handwriting, they will definitely not be able to bear the loneliness. Once they take action with great fanfare, when the owner of Tianji takes action, the underworld may not be able to eat and walk around. The universe is very vast, but your vision is too narrow. The sixth patriarch walked forward. He exerted a slight force on his fingers, and the great emperor in his hand let out a shrill scream that made people's scalp numb. His eyes fell on Qin Xianlang, as if 2 giant mountains were falling from the sky, compressing and distorting the void. It is a wrong decision for you not to go back with me. The sixth patriarch might as well wait and see. As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Xianlang took a step forward again. His body was dazzling, and a surge of unparalleled domineering power swept across billions of miles in radius. With a roar, the sky collapsed and the earth shattered. He directly killed him. Behind him, among the Qin clan, many elders chose to take action at the same time. Each person chose a different target, but they were all resurrected creatures. These people, who have fallen into the underworld, are no longer living creatures. Even though they still have memories of their lives, their mental they have all been infected by the underworld and become indifferent and callous. If they are not killed, I am afraid that the entire Qin family will turn into a hell on earth. Boom. A shocking war broke out within the Qin clan. Various laws intertwined to crush the quasi-emperor. Even the great emperor would not dare to challenge him lightly. If it were left to the outside world, it would probably shock the world. Obsessed. The sixth patriarch snorted coldly. He spoke the law, cut across the void, and shattered all laws. Only his own Tao and principles bloomed, turned into ancient stars, penetrated the front, and hit Qin Xian Lang. Bang! The sky collapsed and the earth shattered. A huge red divine bird flew over. It was a Suzaku. It was once a creature in the distant immortal world, but it has disappeared long ago. Today, time reappears, illuminating everything. The Suzaku spreads its wings across thousands of miles, sweeping all the sixth patriarch's possessions. The attack was all immediate. Then, it turned into a long sword, circled in the void, and fell into the hands of Qin Xian Lang. Qin Xian Lang held the long sword, and the sharp edge split the heavens. Thousands of stars were falling, and thousands of stars were falling. The whole territory was trembling, and many of the newly resurrected Qin clan creatures were killed. However, those creatures that were not emperors but were resurrected were reduced to powder by their front legs, and were all resurrected by their rear legs. Like an immortal body. Seeing this scene, Qin Xianlang frowned. Can't he be killed? What kind of method is this in the underworld? Why is it so weird? If he can't be killed, then if this war is within the clan, those of them who are still alive, but even if they are trapped in a cocoon. Although the ancestral land of the Qin family is not small, it is not enough to support many great emperors. Moreover, they cannot let go and cannot fight with the sixth patriarch and others. If they give it a try, maybe the sixth patriarch and others are safe and sound, but the Qin family is probably in ruins. I have told you long ago that the underworld is the eternal destination. These people who have been resurrected from the dead have already achieved immortality. Any means you can use on them will be useless. The sixth patriarch shook his head, with a hint of mockery in his words. It was as if he was watching an ant struggling desperately. Elders, activate the mountain protection formation and send all these people outside the formation to avoid harming the clan members. Qin Xianlang shouted. At this time, he couldn't help but think too much. If these people are not sent out, the Qin family will be doomed. They cannot be beaten or killed. The situation is simply unsolvable. The only way is to send them out and wait for others to rely on them. With the formation of the true immortal level, he could still survive for a while. But as soon as this thought came to an end, another layer of cold sweat broke out on Qin Xianlang's body. His ancestor also died. He was a true immortal figure. Could he be resurrected and come back? If he comes to the Qin family, then they will be completely finished. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 474. In the earthly immortal realm, the entire world was plunged into war. Tianyuan world. Under the calm surface, there are also undercurrents surging. Dawang City is as prosperous as ever. This place is almost becoming the center of the Tianyuan world. Within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles, the population is densely populated, and there is a tendency of spreading outward. After all, it's so safe here. Both cultivators and ordinary people tend to live near Dawang City. And among some ordinary people, it is said by word of mouth that there is a fairy island thousands of miles high in the sky, where immortals live, and the name of that fairy island is Dawang City. Outside the Tianji building, many people were waiting in line to enter Tianji Tower to buy news. Just when many people are anxious. Buzz. In the deserted city, the gray mist surged and covered the sky. A black figure with a stooped body and strange dark green eyes looked old and shapeless. It slowly condensed into shape from the sky. Behind him, there was another person, like a statue. The Ghost King stood in the sky. These two people did not know when they appeared, let alone how they came. They suddenly appeared above the great desert city, looking down at all living beings. The entire great desert city was submerged in the blink of an eye. The figure, like a demon, exuded overwhelming power, shocking many people. They were trembling and at a loss. Through the thick aura, everyone saw the two figures towering above the sky. Who is this person? Don't you know this is Dawang City? A saint looked up at the sky and said with a frown. Although these two people are powerful, the people in Dawang City are not particularly worried. After all, no one has ever dared to cause trouble in Dawang City from before to now. Anyone who dares to do so, people, all fell. Without exception. They must be creatures from other worlds. This kind of aura is very strange, a bit similar to the underworld of the immortal world. Maybe the Hades Emperor has made a comeback. Someone said softly. Ah! A demon clan sneered and said in a cold voice, even if Emperor Hades is here, he would not dare to be so presumptuous. These two people are so arrogant, I am afraid they will soon anger the senior master of Tianji. On the sky. The ancestor of the Qin clan, his hair was disheveled, and his eyes swept across the void with a somewhat unbelievable look in his eyes. He clearly remembered that he was suppressed and killed by the master of Tianji Tower. And now, he actually came back to life again. Behind him, there was a member of the Qin clan standing. If he wasn't the fifth elder, who was he? The underworld. The ancestor of the Qin family quickly understood the whole story. In his mind, there was a mark that did not belong to him, and this mark was the key to his resurrection. As long as the mark is not broken, he can eternal life and time. It can be said that the realm he dreamed of was not achieved during his lifetime, but he succeeded after his death. Even one step closer, he has become immortal. After receiving the mark given by the underworld. At the same time, he also learned that he has gained some of the strength of the underworld. In his opinion, among all the worlds, the underworld is definitely the leader, and no one can compete with it. Not even the owner of the Tianji Tower. If it were before, when he was resurrected and returned, when he saw the Tianji Tower in the first moment, I definitely ran as far as I could to avoid being shot to death by the owner of Tianji. But now, the situation is different. I am immortal, what do I have to fear? The owner of Tianji is stronger than himself, and he can also. Did he get shot to death? At this moment, behind the ancestor of the Qin family, the fifth elder looked at his palms. After a long time, he barely suppressed his excitement. He was alive. He was really alive. He was resurrected from the dead. After that, not only was his strength not lost, but he also got closer. A sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he glanced indifferently at the Tianji Tower below, then looked at the earthly immortal world, and murmured, I am back again, everything in the past, the Qin family must pay the price. How did he die in the first place? Naturally, Qin Xianlang must die again no matter what. Even. He has already thought about it. After he and his ancestors destroyed the Tianji Tower, and then returned to the earthly immortal realm, those creatures in the earthly immortal realm would see the shocking look after me. Especially the people of the Qin clan. Will you be surprised to see my ancestor and I come back from resurrection? Master Tianji, your end has come. The ancestor of the Qin family didn't talk nonsense and took a step forward. The terrifying coercion spread like a tide, sweeping across hundreds of millions of miles and causing the surrounding earth to collapse. Throughout the great desert city, countless symbols rose into the sky. In the void, it flashes crazily. It seems as if it will be broken in the next second. This breath. The moment the ancestor of the Qin family took action, the expressions of countless people changed drastically. At the beginning, there were many powerful practitioners who participated in the battle between the earthly immortal realm and the Tianyuan realm. They were very familiar with this aura. That was Qin's, the power of the ancestor of the Qin family. And the ancestor of the Qin family is a true immortal level strong man. Shouldn't he have died? Why is it resurrected again? Someone lost their voice. This is too incredible. A person who has long been rumored to have died is reborn again today. Everyone is shocked and cannot believe this fact. Senior Tianji building master, didn't you kill him? This idea was rejected by everyone as soon as it appeared in their minds. This is impossible. The shattering of the soul card of the ancestor of the Qin family came from the Qin family. It is impossible. False. Since the ancestor of the Qin family is dead, then there is something fishy about his resurrection today. Maybe. The truth is not what everyone sees. Miscalculated. In the Tianji Tower, Li Yun sat up and walked step by step to the front of the Tianji Tower. He looked at the two people on the sky who were about to attack the Tianji Tower and frowned slightly. When he was killing the ancestor of the Qin family, I didn't know that there was an underworld from another world that would cross the border. Therefore, at that time, I didn't break up the soul of the ancestor of the Qin family, but just wiped it out. Now it seems that I didn't do it thoroughly, but ended up causing trouble for myself. Left a little trouble. Whatever. I could kill you once before, so I will kill you again today. Li Yun said softly. The voice was not loud, but it echoed throughout the whole city. Everyone heard this sentence. This sentence was very plain, without any smoke and fire, but it made everyone feel tight. They felt the terrifying murderous intention is steaming like crazy. It is like the wrath of the sky, which makes people feel awe. On the contrary, the ancestor of the Qin family and the fifth elder of the Qin family are not panic at all. They have become immortal. Is it possible that this destiny the poster, can he still kill himself and others? No matter how strong he is, he shouldn't be able to compare with the underworld at his peak, right? Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 475. Sonorous. A crimson sword light rushed out of the Tianji Tower, turning the entire sky into a bright red, as if blood would drip out in the next second. Everyone seemed to hear the sound of ghosts crying and howling. It was like opening and entering the gate of purgatory. At the moment when the sword light slashed out, the wind roared, the waves surged into the sky, and endless corpses emerged. Even gods and demons fell under this sword. This is a person who is better than the underworld. There was also a fierce sword that transcended the end of time. No one could make a move. Even the ancestors of the Qin clan and the fifth elder couldn't help but swallowed. Their hearts were beating, and their own. If the immortal body encountered this sword, could it really be blocked? They didn't have time to think too much. Just at the moment when the thought flashed, the sword light rushed past. Boom! A huge sound came out, like the sky was shattering and the earth was shattering, causing the entire desert city to shake, accompanied by a scalp-numbing roar. After a long time, the world returned to peace. The two newly resurrected members of the Qin family have since disappeared, as if everything just now was an illusion, making people feel like they were in a dream. Only the activated formation tells everyone all the time that everything just now is true. They saw with their own eyes that a supreme true immortal, together with a great emperor, were wiped away by the master of Tianji with a wave of his hand. The formation in Dawang City is a bit weak. Li Yun retracted his palm, looked up at the sky, and murmured. This is the formation he set up before, which can kill a great emperor. However, as the world level increases, the great emperor is no longer enough. It is estimated that it won't be long before the true immortal is also he is no longer a top figure. If he doesn't upgrade his formation, I'm afraid. From now on, people will come and go in Dawang City. That kind of situation is not what he wants to see. When Li Yunzhen killed the ancestor of the Qin clan, the entire Tianyuan world seemed to revive, and countless dead people began to crawl out of their graves. 1,000,000 miles away from the deserted city. In the past, in the deserted Bedouin mountains, a figure filled with gloomy energy stood in the void. His breath was cold and his eyes were open and closed. He swept through the grass and trees in the mountain and murmured, "Am I reborn again? It seems that the inheritance I left behind has also found a destined person." Among the Golden Crow clan, several great emperors returned. These people were like ancient demon gods. Their bodies were covered with true sun fire that turned into pitch black, scorching the void and distorting the space. Ancestor Jinwu woke up from seclusion, looked at everything in front of him, and felt his scalp numb. Not so long ago, I got the news. It was said that in the deserted city, there were people who had died for a long time and suddenly came back to life. How long has it been? Several of my ancestors are all alive. This joke is too big. Among them, he even saw the ancestor who refined the demon Emperor Bel. This was the founder of the Golden Crow clan, but now he seemed to be possessed by a demon. The eyes he looked at his clansmen were extremely indifferent, and even contained a trace of undisguised murderous intent. Even the demon Emperor Bel did not see the excitement of its master. Instead, it emitted a buzzing sound to warn the entire Golden Crow clan. It could tell that its master was no longer the same one as before. Gudong. The ancestor of the Golden Crow swallowed a gulp of saliva, and quickly secretly sent a message to the leader of the Golden Crow clan. "Go to the Tianji Tower immediately and ask the senior owner of the Tianji Tower, what happened to our Golden Crow clan? Why did the ancestor who had already passed away suddenly wake up today? This junior will head to Tianji Tower now." The leader of the Golden Crow clan said quickly. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned into a golden light, soared into the sky, and flew towards the Tianji Tower. Just as he left with his front feet, his back feet took less than a breath. In the ancestral land of the Golden Crow clan, an explosion broke out. The terrifying power was unleashed. It was a fight between several great emperors, and accompanied by this deafening roar, it seemed as if the entire sky had been blown apart, which was extremely terrifying. Seeing this scene, the Golden Crow clan leader could not know that the members of his clan. Is this a big change? I'm afraid. The resurrection of several ancestors is a disaster rather than a blessing for the Golden Crow clan. At the same time, the Tianyuan world is hundreds of millions of miles away, in chaos. On a Shenzhou, the figure wearing armor suddenly opened his eyes, and a faint green light penetrated the world, looking in the direction of Tianyuan world, and he said softly, "Strangeness. Commander, what happened?" Beside, someone asked. "People in the underworld are immortal and difficult to kill. I never thought that. Just now I sensed that some of the ancient undead I had recalled with the soul-calling beads had died." The figure wearing armor murmured. "Oh." The person next to him had a look on his face, as if he had thought of something, and said, "Could it be that Taishu took action?" At this time, I am afraid that only Taishu, who escaped from the Xianguang realm, is the most likely to do so. Not him. The figure wearing armor shook his head slightly and said lightly, "Although Taishu is not weak, it is just not weak. With his strength, he cannot destroy the creatures in the underworld. Even if he is a saint, he cannot kill him. In terms of strength alone, except for the Lord of the Underworld, few people in the underworld are Taishu's opponents, but they cannot resist the secrets of the creatures in the underworld. A group of unkillable people, even if Taishu is twice as strong, there is nothing that can be done against them. If it is not the beginning, is there something beyond our expectation in another world?" The person who spoke just now had a look on his face and said in a deep voice, "If this is the case, then I and others will have to make a long-term plan. If I can crush other people in the underworld to death, I can also crush myself and others to death if things go wrong. Just in case." Himself, a group of people rushed hundreds of millions of miles away from the Xianguang realm, and ended up meeting a forbidden being. Wouldn't that be like giving someone away? No problem. The figure in armor waved his hand slightly and said, "It's just two dead fish. A true immortal or a great emperor is nothing. In my opinion, the person who took action is nothing more than that. If he really has the means to kill the creatures of the underworld. Now in the entire hometown of Taishu, perhaps all the undead souls I awakened have been killed or injured. But now, only 2 people have died. What does this mean? It means that the person who takes action has no way to deal with the creatures in the underworld." Hearing these words, the people present breathed a sigh of relief. They could only kill the true immortal and the great emperor, so they didn't panic. After all, the people who came this time were all immortal realm figures, and their strength was incomparable. As for the awakened undead, they are not worried at all if they die. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 476. Even so, we have to guard against it. On the Shenja, a man said in a deep voice. This is the only living person in the strip. Although he has turned into a ghost and can live forever, before he dies, he can experience the feeling of being alive, which is better than anything else. After all, no one wants to die if they can live. What if there really is something beyond their expectation in the hometown of Taishu? They may not be able to stop it. No need to be too alarmist. The creature wearing armor snorted coldly and said lightly before setting off, I found out that the hometown of Taishu is not much better than the Xianguang realm. Even if there are a few ancient figures sitting in charge, so what? Once our space channel is established and the Lord comes across the border, they will all surrender. As soon as these words came out, everyone present fell silent. The strength of the Lord of the underworld is not a joke, but has been tested by the entire Xianguang realm. I don't know how many people were enemies of the underworld at the beginning. But what was the result? In the end it was not those who surrendered all entered reincarnation. It was good to be able to enter reincarnation. Some people even had their consciousness wiped out and became zombie puppets, allowing the Lord of the underworld to drive around. Thinking of that scene, the man couldn't help but beat a shudder. Before, if I hadn't fallen so fast, I would probably have fallen into that situation. And the figure wearing armor raised the soul-calling orb in his hand, blooming with brilliance. He said slowly, after so long, only 2 people have died. It can be seen that the hometown of Taishu is nothing more than this. The commander is right. The person next to him nodded and said, if Taishu's hometown is really very powerful, it is estimated that Taishu will not leave his hometown and go to Xianguang realm. In the chaos, there are many worlds, just like the sands of the Ganges, there are countless. But except for some people who cannot cross the chaos, others generally do not choose to go to other worlds. After all, they are unfamiliar with the place. It is inevitable to encounter accidents. Today's Taishu still dares to return to his hometown. It is obviously not forced to leave by a strong enemy. In this case, the purpose of Taishu leaving his hometown is questionable. It is very likely that Taishu thinks that my hometown is not strong enough and I want to go to other worlds to find opportunities. But no matter what. The man glanced at the other people, frowned slightly, and said softly, be careful and you won't make a big mistake. After all, everything is for the Lord. If you spoil the Lord's important event because of impulsiveness, then it's too late. Ah! The figure wearing armor slowly stood up, and a terrifying power swept out. He was taller, about 3 feet tall, looked down at the man from a high position, and said, now that you have achieved immortality, why should you be timid? And after saying this, he paused slightly, put away the soul-calling pearl in his hand, looked into the void, and said lightly, we are not far from the hometown of Taishu. As soon as he finished speaking, in the vast chaos, an endless continent suddenly appeared. It was very vast, much larger than the Xianguang realm. Such a world makes everyone on the Shenzhou feel a little excited. They had extremely overestimated the hometown of Taishu, but they still underestimated it, let alone the strength of the creatures in this world. The vastness of this world is probably not comparable to the Xianguang realm. After all, this world is the fusion of several worlds. On the other hand, the Xianguang realm is only one-third of the original Tianyan realm. In terms of its vastness, the Xianguang realm has fallen behind. The area of this world seems to be no smaller than the original Tianyan world. The man looked at the world not far away and swallowed. In such a terrifying world, it is difficult to say whether there is a supreme figure sitting in charge. What if what he and others provoke is a world that is not weaker than Tianyan realm? Then if the number of people you are waiting for increases 100 times, you won't be able to make a splash at all. It's just that the world is a little wider. The figure wearing armor walked forward and said with a sneer. His spiritual thoughts swept out and surged towards the earthly immortal realm. Due to the distance, it was impossible to spy on the entire earthly immortal realm. However, a small area could be investigated. After some exploration, nothing could be hidden under his spiritual will. After he withdrew his spiritual will, the result made him speechless. The world in front of him was a bit surprisingly weak. Although he only looked at the world on the edge, he can also roughly estimate the overall strength of the entire world. In his opinion, in this world, true immortals are probably rare. Is this the hometown of Taishu? But that's it? The figure wearing armor said indifferently. Yes. The person next to him nodded slightly, and said with some disappointment, it is indeed a bit weak. It seems that it does not live up to its name, and the whole world, until now, seems not to have noticed that we are about to arrive. As creatures of the underworld, they don't know what it means to be low-key, and have no intention of restraining their momentum. But they are so public, and there is no movement in Taishu's hometown. If it weren't for the other party not taking them and others seriously, then there is only one result. No one in the whole world noticed their arrival. Huh. At this time, the man let out a soft sigh, his pupils shrank slightly, and he said softly, it seems that Taishu's hometown has not noticed it. Isn't there someone waiting for us? I saw. Outside the earthly immortal realm, a figure in white clothes stood in the sky, carrying a long sword on his back. He stood there quietly, his clothes fluttering, as if he had been standing here for hundreds of millions of years. It was as if he had stood there for hundreds of millions of years. The whole person has become one with this world. This is. The creature wearing armor had will-o'-the-wisps dancing in its pupils, and a cold aura spread out, freezing the entire universe. After seeing the man's appearance clearly, he couldn't help but sneered and said, it's actually Taishu. Is his world deserted? He finally escaped from the Xianguang realm, but today he is the only one standing here trying to stop us. Does he think he can stop all of us? Call aside. The man also let out a sigh of relief, and gradually relaxed his worries. From the current point of view, his worries were a bit unnecessary. Taishu's hometown was not as strong as he imagined. Instead, ridiculously weak. At least for now, I haven't seen anyone above a true immortal. What does this mean? It represents a vast and boundless world, as if it is undefended, placed in front of the underworld. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 477. Boom. Outside the earthly immortal world. In the chaos, there was an explosion that shook the sky. The space was shattered inch by inch, and a huge black hole appeared, as if the sky was broken, and there was a depth behind it, swallowing everything, and even light could not pass through. Inside the black hole in the middle, chaos and mist filled the air, and the cold breath swept across all directions like a tide. The moment everyone sensed this breath, they felt like falling into an ice cellar. From the true immortal emperor to ordinary creatures, everything was covered feeling cold. They looked at the sky with a horrified expression, not knowing what was happening. But somewhere in the dark, there was an intuition that kept telling them that a great terror was about to come. Boom! The sky trembled, and the stars trembled, as if they were about to fall. Behind the black hole, an ancient black gold ship, stained with rust, full of ancient meaning, as if running through an ancient history, from the distant years, driving slowly over. "What is that?" someone exclaimed. No one knows the origin of this ancient ship, but just taking a look at it makes people feel heartbroken, as if all the ominous premonitions came from him. The moment the ancient ship appeared, the whole world, the immortal world, seems to be unable to withstand this power. The earth is cracked, the sea is flowing backwards, ancient mountains have collapsed, and smoke is filling the air. It is a scene of annihilation, like an ancient demon god coming back to time. Even during this period, in the entire immortal world, the undead souls who caused a huge wave all stopped their conquest in unison. They stood on the spot, looking at the sky feverishly with their eyes. They were solemn as if they were welcoming their own monarch. At this moment, the entire earthly immortal world became quiet. It was dead silent, no one dared to make a sound. Is this a creature from another world? They came to the earthly immortal realm to start a war, right? It's so strong that my soul is trembling and I'm almost suffocating. I'm afraid the person who comes is not weak, at least he must be above the great emperor. Not only the great emperor, but also a true immortal is possible. I can't hold on to just a wisp of breath. My soul is about to shatter. Many powerful monks screamed, and then quickly retreated, like avoiding a savage beast. A warship like the eternal heavens pressed down. That kind of pressure was not something ordinary people could withstand. It took a few breaths. In ancient times, near the place where the ship landed, all the powerful monks left. Some even moved the mountain gate and fled to the distance, even to the Zixuan realm, because they felt that the earthly immortal realm was going to be uneasy. Only the Zixuan realm or the Tianyuan realm can give them a sense of security. This day has finally come. Yugzu Palace. An old man in purple robes with white beard and white hair stood on the top of the mountain, looking at the sky. He looked at the black gold ancient ship and murmured. Too fast. He would have arrived a long time ago. Sooner or later, the earthly immortal realm will repeat the same mistakes as the Zixuan realm. After all, in the heavens, the weak eat the strong. It is impossible to only allow the earthly immortal realm to attack others and not allow others to attack the earthly immortal realm. But no, what he thought was that this day came so quickly and unexpectedly, and he was not prepared at all. He didn't even see the merged world. Could it be possible? This time, the coming of alien beings was not secretly led by the master of Tianji, but did someone accidentally discover the earthly immortal realm and then want to take action against the earthly immortal realm? This may be small, but it is not impossible. Master, what should we do in Yugzu Palace now? Beside the old man, a middle-aged man wearing a white robe frowned and said. He is Yang Jian's master, Huang Yun. He is currently in the late stage of the great emperor. From his eyes, it is not difficult to see that this ancient ship is unusual. There is a terrifying aura brewing in it. Once it breaks out, it will be enough to destroy the world. Maybe. There are people who are not my masters. Is it still too late to go to Tianyuan realm now? Huang Yun said softly. They wanted to move the Yugzu Palace to the Tianyuan realm before, but they were blocked. At this time, he was not sure about doing so. After all, passing the Yugzu Palace at this moment is tantamount to moving the Yugzu Palace to the Tianyuan realm. The flames of war are leading to Tianyuan realm. If those people don't skin Yugzu Palace alive, it will be considered a good thing. It's too late. Taoist. Zigzag shook his head slightly and said, nowadays, wars occur in every world, and the source of wars is the resurrection of some dead people. In this war, the stronger the foundation and the longer the inheritance, the greater the impact will be. Because they have a long history and have given birth to too many amazing and talented people. Once these people are resurrected, it set off a wave of terror. On the other hand, in Yugzu Palace, it had no impact. After all, the founder of the sect was still alive. None of his disciples died. There was no terrifying character resurrected, so it was considered a safe passage. Master suspects that this matter is related to the ancient ship in front of him. Huang Yun said in a deep voice. Possible. Taoist. Zigzag nodded slightly and said the auras of the two are too similar. Even the aura on this ancient ship reminds me of the Hades Emperor not long ago. Emperor of Hades. Huang Yun's face froze. He thought of some bad things, because the underworld had also driven some yin spirits, but they were also unable to be killed, but because the number was too small, and not many people knew about it. Therefore, no one this matter is related to Hades Emperor. But now it seems that today's situation in the immortal world is inseparable from Hades Emperor. Maybe Hades Emperor is the mastermind behind the scenes. Could it be that these people were attracted by Emperor Hades? Huang Yun speculated. This possibility cannot be ruled out. Zigzag Taoist sighed lightly and murmured, this is a catastrophe. It is estimated to sweep through every current world, and no one can stop it. Unless. Said. Taoist Zigzag looked at the Tianyuan realm and said softly, unless the master of Tianji takes action. Looking at the world, apart from the master of Tianji, he really can't think of anyone else who can have this strength. Master is exaggerating. There are many hidden true immortals in the earthly immortal realm. If they all come out, they may be able to drive this ancient ship out of the earthly immortal realm. Huang Yun is still a little optimistic. In his opinion, the earthly immortal world is not weak. It is not at the forefront among all the worlds, but it is still about the same in the middle. After all, true immortals are not weak. Things are not as simple as you think. Taoist. Zigzag shook his head slightly and said in a deep voice, there are people in the immortal realm in this ancient ship, and no real immortal can resist it. Immortality realm. Huang Yun's face froze, and his mood couldn't help but feel heavy. He said, our immortal lord of the earthly immortal realm is about to break through, and there may be a glimmer of hope. These words mean that Huang Yun wants to follow the example of Zixuan realm. When the immortal lord breaks through, they still have a chance to make a comeback. Ah! Taoist. Zigzag smiled bitterly and said, what if I tell you, Master, that there is more than one person in the immortal realm in this ancient ship? Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 478. More than one person. Huang Yun was stunned. If it is an immortal realm, after the true Lord of Immortality breaks through, he may be able to wrangle it, but if there are more than one, it will be troublesome. This proves that even if the true Lord of Immortality breaks through, it will not be possible at all. It's of no use. Because this is just a warship. God knows how many terrifying people are standing behind the opponent. More importantly, the people in the earthly immortal realm have no idea where the opponent's base camp is. In other words, they can only be beaten passively. It is completely different from the Zixuan realm back then. After all, if the earthly immortal realm wants to completely destroy the Zixuan realm, Emperor Bai Li can defeat them to the death, and the earthly immortal realm cannot escape anyway. But now, they came across chaos, where can I go to fight with them? Judging from the strength exposed on the surface, the fish will die, but the net will not be broken. Is this the rumored underworld? In the earthly immortal realm? The true Lord of Immortality stood on a sacred mountain with his hands behind his hands. His face was very solemn. He looked at the warship and murmured, the underworld was destroyed in the past, but the strength left behind is probably not the same. A mere fairy world can resist it? Compared to others, the immortal Lord's understanding of the underworld can be regarded as profound. After all, the inheritance in his hands also comes from the strength of a party that is hostile to the underworld. Naturally, he knows the atmosphere and behavior of the underworld very well. As early as in the earthly immortal world, when the undead were resurrected, he had already speculated that the underworld might be doing something secretly. However, at first, he thought it was Emperor Hades who was causing trouble in secret. But now it seems that it has little to do with Emperor Hades. Another force from the underworld. 5 people in the immortality realm are such a big deal, and with the characteristics of the creatures in the underworld, 10 people in the immortality realm may not be able to suppress the opponent. The immortal Lord frowned. At this time, his reason told him that he should go to the Tianyuan realm and ask the senior Tianji building master if there was any way for him to break through the immortal realm as soon as possible. But the current situation did not allow him to leave at this time. Because he left, more than half of the high-level combat power of the Earth immortal realm was missing. With the few remaining true immortals, they couldn't stop the opponent at all. Of course. Even with him included, immortal true Lord thought he couldn't defeat them just when he was hesitant. Boom! There was a loud earthquake. In the void, a middle-aged man wearing a moon-white robe, with thick black hair flying like a waterfall in the sky, walked forward step by step, approaching the ancient black gold ship. Who is this person? Not only the immortal Lord, but also all the creatures in the entire Earth immortal world are confused. At this time, it is simply unbelievable that someone dares to face this black gold warship. You must know that there are countless immortals in it. The superior beings are in charge. This is also a person in the immortal realm. There was a hint of joy on the face of the immortal Lord. He had no impression of this person. Even the other person's aura was unfamiliar to him. He was most likely not a creature from the earthly immortal realm. But when the other person stood up now, there was no doubt that he had no idea about the earthly immortal realm. That's a good thing. Is this a person in the immortality realm of our immortal world? In Yugzu Palace. Taoist Zigzu also saw this scene. He looked into the depths of the void and said in shock. The man in white was very powerful. He moved forward step by step, and laid out a formation with his hands raised to isolate the world from this area. Although I can see the scene, I can no longer feel the power of the immortal realm. This move is undoubtedly for the sake of the entire earthly immortal realm. After all, if there is a war in the immortal realm, once it starts, the whole world will collapse. Yes. With this formation, many people can avoid the danger of death. Teishu. You have been running away for so long, but did you ever think you would be here today? Where can you escape now? A terrifying wave came from the black gold warship, echoing between the heaven and the earth. The whole chaos was shaking, as if it was about to collapse in the next second. It was extremely terrifying. You have to be brave to stand up to us all by yourself, but the final result will not change at all. You will still fall and become one of us. If the Lord is merciful, perhaps your sanity will be preserved. This kind of fluctuation like Wang Yang spread throughout the earthly immortal world. Even the creatures at the end of the sky were horrified by it. How powerful is this existence? It is really heaven-defying. Countless earthly immortal world creatures are horrified, no matter what. No matter how far you retreat, you are still not within the safe range. Even if you enter the earthly immortal world, you can still feel the palpitating feeling like thorns on your back. Even if you are as powerful as a great emperor, you cannot erase the shadow that hangs over your heart. This must be an existence beyond the true fairyland, right? At this moment, Even the weak creatures can't help but beat the drum in their hearts. They have already seen the battle in the true immortal realm. Now these characters have surpassed the true immortal realm before they take action. It is very likely that their own strength is. He is a person in the realm of immortality. Can that man in white really stop such a terrifying figure? Many people thought in their hearts. Deep in their hearts, they really hoped that the man in white could win, but the facts told them that the creatures in the black gold warship seemed to have a chance of victory. On the sky, Teishu was dressed in white, with an indifferent expression, without any stagnation, and with firm steps, moving forward indomitably, like a god, crossing hundreds of millions of miles. Standing in front of the ancient black gold ship. Boom! A black divine phoenix flew out from the warship, bathed in the overwhelming divine fire, like a demon phoenix descending on the mortal world. As soon as it appeared, terrifying waves surged into the sky, and the entire field collapsed, spreading out all at once. As far as the eye can see, the entire earthly immortal world seems to have collapsed. The ground is covered with dense cracks, like spider webs, and the sky is shattering. Oh my God! Countless people were horrified. Just showing up is so terrifying. What kind of situation would it be if we took action? You must know that this is still blocked by the formation set up by Teishu. If there is no formation, just this wisp of power, I'm afraid the earthly immortal realm has already suffered heavy losses. It's over. Most people can't stop people like this. I'm afraid we will all die. Some people closed their eyes in despair. After this figure appeared, the aura in the ancient ship did not weaken at all. This means that there are still terrifying figures hiding in it. Just one figure, if there are several more in the ship, if so, they don't see any hope of winning. Teishu, your end has come. Will you transform yourself into a Taoist form, or do you want me to personally take action and give you a ride? This dark divine phoenix possesses supreme majesty. Its divine thoughts fluctuate like a surging king's Sunday. It is so majestic that the whole world trembles. With a single thought, it can shatter the void. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 479. You can try. The sword light behind Teishu was like a rainbow, like a sword mountain, suppressing the sky, clanging, bursting out endless sword light, splitting the void. Arrogant. The dark divine phoenix sneered. He held his palm in the air, and a black tienge emerged. It was gloomy and entangled with strong evil energy. I don't know how many creatures were hated by this tienge. He pointed at Teishu from a distance and said indifferently. I've heard for a long time that your swordsmanship is unparalleled. I just want to see it today. As you wish. Teishu said coldly. Before he finished speaking, he took action directly. No one could see clearly. They could only see that in the earthly immortal world, the sky collapsed and the earth shattered, the universe shook violently, chaos roiling, and the breath of creation swallowed everything up. Then everything was submerged. Ah! A loud shout came out, and all the light disappeared. There was only a man in white standing alone. He held a sword in one hand, and half of the black wings fell down at his feet. This wing stretched across thousands of feet, like an endless mountain range, lying on the ground, with black blood overflowing. This kind of blood is not an entity. The moment it flowed out, it turned into mist and drifted in all directions. Within tens of thousands of miles around, all mountains, rivers, flowers, plants and trees were infected. It lost its original color and turned into jet black. Saw this scene. I don't know how many people took a breath of cold air. These creatures are too terrifying. A broken wing will turn tens of thousands of miles of rivers and mountains into a dead zone. If the opponent falls here, I'm afraid it's a disaster rather than a blessing for the earthly immortal world. Because they don't dare to provoke this kind of aura. If they touch it rashly, even if they are lucky, they will be assimilated by it. If they are not lucky, they will be completely destroyed. 2. Early. A hoarse voice came from mid-air. The dark divine phoenix stood in the void, a pair of green eyes, staring coldly at Teishu, with undisguised murderous intent in his chest, almost drowning Tianyu. One blow. Just one blow, his body was torn apart, which was a great shame. Although he was already immortal, having a wing torn off was nothing to him, but in full view of everyone, he was defeated with one move. This it was like giving him a merciless slap on the face. If he hadn't been a creature from the underworld, I would have been seriously injured right now. That is, the strong man on our side, he won. Very good. In the earthly immortal realm, countless people watched this scene, and they were all surprised. How powerful is this to defeat someone of the same level with one move? With such a strong man sitting in charge, his own earthly immortal realm can still be safe and sound. Survive the disaster. Ah! The dark divine phoenix roared, and the roar was like thunder, shaking away the clouds in the sky, causing the boundless chaos to roll endlessly. He was shaking all over, and black blood flowed, staining the void. I want you to die. Boom. A divine phoenix, like a cloud hanging from the sky, is boundless, covering the earth, and it swoops down from the void. Before it approaches, a desperate aura sweeps down. Like a huge mountain, it descends. The entire earthly immortal world seemed to have collapsed by more than 1,000 feet, which was very breathtaking. At this time, Teishu's eyes were cold, and he strode forward without hesitation. Every time he advanced, the aura on his body became higher. After taking one step, the aura has reached its peak. Like a god, standing in the void, no one can look directly at it. Even the creatures in the black gold ancient ship can't help but frown, because Teishu's current aura is about to beyond their expectations. Some abilities, but so what? The dark divine phoenix shouted coldly, with solemn murderous intent, freezing all the heavens and worlds. He made a desperate blow, burning all his strength, and wanted to drag Teishu to fall together. Anyway, he can be resurrected, but Teishu cannot. After death, there is absolutely no possibility of resurrection. Unless he wants to join the underworld. You're too far behind. Teishu raised his eyes and looked at Tianyu. His eyes were like a knife, splitting the void. It was like an ancient ferocious beast resurrected. The long sword behind him rose into the sky and slashed out at once. Sonorous. There was a sound of gold and iron clashing together. The world seemed to have collapsed and was divided into two. Wow! The silver-white sword light was like a waterfall, falling from outside the clouds. It was a vast expanse of white, boundless, drowning everything, causing countless spectators to lose their minds for a moment. At this moment, every living being's spirit was about to burst. Like a knife scraping bones, every inch of skin seems to be peeled off, like a death sentence of 1,000 cuts, which is unbearable. They are so far apart and blocked by formations, they have reached this point. Not to mention, facing this head-on, the dark divine phoenix struck with one blow. No. Dark divine phoenix's eyes widened, with two green flames in his eyes flickering on and off. He yelled and wanted to fly away, but it was already too late. Boom, there was a loud noise, and black and white brilliance intertwined and bloomed between heaven and earth. At this moment, the entire earthly fairy world was eclipsed. There were only two kinds of light, black and white. The terrifying aftermath hit. Entering the depths of chaos, it swept hundreds of millions of miles, setting off boundless winds. The power was so terrifying that it could sweep across countless small worlds. I don't know how long it took. The aftermath dissipated. Teishu was dressed in white robes, spotless, and his hair was flying, eyes like the scorching sun, shining brightly, standing in front of the black gold ancient ship, like a mountain, Supporting the world. No one can take a step beyond the thunder pool. What about the dark divine phoenix? Died. Probably. 2 moves killed a dark divine phoenix. What is the origin of the senior? How could he be so terrifying? If he is here, will our fairy world be able to survive the disaster safely? Maybe. The creatures in the earthly immortal world looked excited and talked among themselves. I thought that I and others had overestimated the senior, but now it seems that they still underestimated him. 2 moves killed a person of the same level. If it were many people, if they asked themselves, they simply wouldn't be able to do it. After all, how many people who can reach the realm of immortality are weak? At the beginning of their training, all of them were top geniuses. Generally, even if they were defeated, they would not lose so quickly or so miserably. On the sky, Taisha stood quietly, his brows furrowed tightly. He knew the strength of the underworld, but he was not as optimistic as others. If the creatures in the black gold ancient ship were all living characters, he was not afraid at all, but the key was that the other party was not a living creature. But the undead souls who have already died? Really? Next moment, black mist surged between the sky and the earth, and the dark divine phoenix, which had been shattered, regrouped again. Even the wings that had been torn apart just now were restored at this time. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 480. At the same time, there was a dull sound in the ancient black gold ship. Tread. 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 It was a sound of footsteps, like a great bell, buzzing in the void, as if the heaven and earth were shaking, and a black wind swept out. Every wind was extremely black, like a handle the heavenly knife split the void and scraped out the chaos. At this moment, the sky and the earth were filled with a sense of murder. It was like a god from hell, breaking out of the cage and coming to this world to carry out an act of annihilation. Bang! One foot stepped out, and the black armor flashed with cold light, covering the figure. Only a pair of eyes were exposed, with 2 green flames jumping in the middle. He had a majestic figure, and his whole body was surrounded. The brilliance and aura emanating from it were more than twice as powerful as the dark divine phoenix just now. Even people as far away as the purple mystic realm could feel this aura. He stood there quietly, as if he was an inhospitable tower. Like a mountain that has been crossed, it suppresses the world, casting a shadow over the hearts of countless people. What makes the creatures in the earthly immortal world even more desperate is that together with the dark divine phoenix and the existence that just came out, they are behind the scenes. There are actually 3 creatures of the same level, each of which is extremely powerful. In other words, in this ancient ship, there are 5 immortal realm figures who have crossed over together. It's over. An old saint said sadly. There are only 5 immortal level figures. The key point is that they can't be killed. How can we fight? No matter how strong the seniors on our side are, they can't do anything to the other side, and the other side can even use them. Let this senior live and die here. Taishu, I have to say that you are very strong. If you can submit to the underworld, your status may not be lower than mine. It is a pity that you have chosen the wrong path. The figure wearing armor said in a deep voice. Now that you join the underworld, there is still room for maneuver in everything. Next to him, a pair of cold eyes of the dark divine phoenix were fixed on Taishu. He was full of anger and wanted to kill Taishu immediately. But the commander next to him spoke. Even if he was angry, he couldn't take action rashly at this time. You talk too much nonsense. Fight. There is no nonsense in Taishu. The long sword in his hand is tilted towards the sky, his hair is standing on end, murderous aura is boiling, and the sword intent all over his body is like a volcano erupting, turning into a piece of Wanyang. Clang! There was a sword cry. Taisha took the lead, and the sword light cut through hundreds of millions of miles and turned into a Milky Way. From the end of the sky, it swept over mightily. Stubborn. The figure wearing armor snorted coldly, and said indifferently, "Let's do it together and kill him here. Don't let him delay the Lord's important events." Yes. 4 voices came out at the same time. Then, 4 figures lined up in different directions and quickly rushed towards Taishu. The figure wearing armor stood on the spot and stretched out a finger, like a tianj. Crossed the sky and extended forward. The speed was not very fast, but the sound of the sky exploded. It was just a finger. But it seemed that there was a mountain falling from beyond the sky. The sound of rumbling, 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 rumble, rumbling, 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 rumble, 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 rumble. 6 immortal realm characters started a war, and the earthly immortal realm was completely reduced to a battlefield. They could not stay here anymore, and maybe the entire earthly immortal realm would be destroyed at that moment. The world was destroyed. How could they survive? Bang! The 10,000-foot-long finger fell. Taishu also raised his hand and grabbed it with his big hand. The 5 fingers were as crystal clear as jade and shone brightly. He rushed forward, and his hands collided in the void, bursting out with endless divine brilliance. Such a blow, if placed in the earthly immortal realm, it would be enough to collapse the earth with a radius of hundreds of millions of miles. But now in the chaos, the aftermath has been minimized. But even so, the earthly immortal realm was still affected, and countless mountains and rivers turned into powder. I don't know how many people retreated after vomiting blood. You are indeed capable of escaping from the Xianguang realm. The figure in armor was slightly surprised. He retracted his fingers, with a contemptuous smile on his lips, and came out again, saying coldly, "But even so, you are still going to die." Boom! With a step of his foot, the space shattered, and his figure turned into a black light, and he quickly rushed out. When Taisha clenched a fist with one hand and collided with it. He swung out the long sword in the other hand, sending out thousands of sword lights, forcing the other 4 immortal level figures to retreat. But it was just forcing them back. With 1 against 5 enemies, no matter how strong Taishu is, it is impossible to suppress the opponent to fight. Boom! A deafening sound came out, and brilliant haze shook out from the sky, destroying a large area of space, and great rift valleys of void appeared. This was a great war. It was unique in the history of the earthly immortal world. No one you can see the figures of the 2 warring parties, and you can only feel the terrifying aftermath sweeping out from time to time, making the entire earthly immortal world tremble. Boom! There was another loud noise. Then, dark red blood bloomed between the heaven and the earth, dyeing the entire earthly immortal world with a layer of sad haze, making many people's hearts twitch. This is red the blood. It absolutely cannot be the blood of creatures from the underworld. They are all dead, and the blood flowing in their bodies is black. Could it be that the senior is injured? In the nervous mood of countless people, the battle is still continuing, and the roars the eternal sky was shattered, and terrifying supernatural powers collided in the depths of chaos. A few days later. Click. The 2-section dagger flew out, broke through the shackles of space, and smashed into the depths of the earthly immortal realm. Many people's mood sank to the bottom as soon as they saw the 2-section dagger. This is who the sword of the senior. The weapons of cultivators are usually life and death cultivators, let alone sword cultivators. If the long sword in their hands breaks, they themselves will be severely injured. Sure enough. The next moment, a figure covered in blood, from it flew out from the chaos and landed in the earthly immortal realm. It smashed several mountains before it came to a halt. In the beginning, your way is over. A majestic voice came out. 5 majestic figures stood on the sky. They were all injured, but they were not serious. They could recover with a little training. On the other hand, Teoshu. There was not an inch of him. In the intact places, there are some wounds, and you can see the white bones, with black mist lingering on them, which has been devouring his life. Sure enough. Teoshu ignored the 5 people in the sky. He stood alone on the earth, and finally showed a wry smile, with endless sadness in it. Before coming here, the senior Tianji building master once told himself that no matter whether he comes or not, here, the ending will not change in any way. Now it seems that the senior Tianji poster is right. The ending will indeed not change. The only difference is that there is an extra body of his own. Kill him, and then build a space passage to welcome the arrival of the Lord. The figure wearing armor spoke indifferently. As soon as he finished speaking, the 4 immortal realm beings behind him took a step together, but before they took action, a huge piece of land in the chaos came through the clouds and the moon. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 481. Boom. Chaos exploded. The powerful wind swept through the sky. A huge world was pulled over by a hand from the other side of chaos. Before the world was completely integrated, an extremely depressing aura spread out. This is a shocking picture. Even people in the earthly immortal realm have experienced it once, but they are still unbelievable. A new world has actually merged at this time. Is this the senior master of Tianji doing it secretly? A patriarch of the imperial clan lost his voice as he looked at the rapidly approaching world. At this critical moment, the fusion of a world is undoubtedly a good thing for the earthly immortal world. Because, according to the past, the master of Tianji from the perspective of the merged world, the current world will definitely not be worse than the earthly immortal world, it will only be stronger. Maybe. There are characters in the immortality realm among them. For such a tyrannical world to take the initiative to stand up, it will not be able to cause trouble for this ship. All the creatures in the underworld on the ancient black gold ship will be wiped out. Senior Tianji Lozu, it's true that he has not given up on our immortal world. Another sect leader said in surprise. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a person next to him, who said in surprise, "Don't you realize that this world feels very scary and uneasy? It seems that there is a great terror hidden in this world. What great horror could there be? This is clearly Senior Tianji Lozu, helping me in the immortal world to survive the disaster safely," someone said displeasedly. The moment he finished speaking, the 5 underworld creatures who were originally standing on the sky dome, looking down at all the living beings in the earthly fairy world, sensed the movement behind them at the same time, and they looked back. Then, their bodies all moved together. Trembling, as if seeing something incredible. Bang! All 5 people were half kneeling on the ground, shouting. "Subordinates, welcome your majesty. Subordinates, welcome your majesty. Subordinates, welcome your majesty." They couldn't figure out why they and others came to the earthly immortal realm on the front foot, but the Xianguang realm followed behind them. They must know that they and the others were riding a divine boat. The black gold warship was specially built to travel through chaos. It was unknown how many magical materials were used to quickly cross the 2 realms. But what about the Xianguang realm? Although this world is very powerful, to a certain extent, it is almost impossible for a world to wander in chaos and catch up with the speed of a divine ship. Flying so fast, the world might be in danger of disintegrating. Once the world is shattered, all the creatures on the 9th level in the entire Xianguang realm will completely perish. Lord, How did you do this? Dark Divine Phoenix asks secretly. Maybe the Lord has broken through the immortal king. The creature wearing armor said in a deep voice. Of course. This is just his guess. It is too difficult to break through the immortal king, at least in the Xianguang realm, because this world cannot accommodate such a person. And under the Xianguang realm, there is a big hand holding up the entire world. Judging from the aura emanating from this palm, it seems that it is not the work of the Lord of the Underworld. If it is really a hidden immortal king who takes action. Think of this. The expressions on the faces of these underworld creatures were not very good, because they also understood that an immortal king was too terrifying to them. The entire underworld combined is no match for an immortal king. You think, there must be an immortal king in this world. If he brings the Xianguang realm over, is he trying to wipe out our underworld? Among the 5 underworld creatures, the only one alive said in a trembling voice. Be careful. The figure wearing armor raised his head and glanced at the chaotic Xianguang realm, and said in a deep voice, Your Majesty, you will naturally have your own plans. Even if there is an immortal king, so what? Don't forget that in the past, there was an immortal emperor sitting in the underworld. He was just an immortal king, so don't take it to heart. As soon as these words came out, several other people felt a little calmer. On the other hand, the hundreds of millions of creatures in the earthly immortal world could not remain calm. They stared blankly at the scene in the sky, and everyone looked ugly. This what the hell? Why did these 5 arrogant figures just kneel down all of a sudden? Could it be that they knew that the merged world was too terrifying for them to fight against, so now they surrendered and hoped that the other side would can the creatures in the world spare their lives? But this possibility is not high. Shouldn't it? In Yugzi Palace, Huang Yun's face turned pale, and he whispered, Senior Master Tianji, the world that has been merged this time is the world where the underworld is, right? Judging from the current situation, it should not be wrong. Taoist Zigzhu nodded stiffly. Even someone as strong as him felt cold all over at this moment. His whole body felt like he was falling into an ice cellar, as if a disaster was imminent. There was no hope. Just a black gold ancient ship. The entire earthly immortal realm was hoisted and hammered. Now, the entire world has been integrated with the senior Tianji building master. Isn't this pushing the earthly immortal realm to a dead end? You know, the original earthly immortal realm was not given to the Zixuan realm. Such a lot of pressure. Xianguang realm. Taishu smiled sadly, his blood-stained body shook, and he almost fainted. The injuries on his body exploded at this moment, almost making him die. Even the 5 underworld creatures turned a blind eye to him. He couldn't run at all at the moment. No. In addition to the serious injury, the more important thing is that the Xianguang realm has merged. The world is so big, where can he go? Escape from the earthly immortal realm and wander in the chaos again? This idea has just appeared, and it has been eliminated by Taishu. Shaking it out of my mind, I have already escaped once, and I must not escape a second time. Otherwise, the injuries on my body will still be secondary. The main reason is that my Taoist heart does not allow me to do this. Why do seniors do this? Taishu turned around and looked at the Tianyuan realm. At the end of his eyes, he seemed to see the ancient Tianji Tower. The owner of the Tianji Tower was sitting upright, looking down at the heavens and the world, with no emotion in his eyes. In his opinion, Tianji Tower the poster's move is tantamount to forcing the 3 worlds including the earthly immortal realm to a dead end. There is no hope left. How can he be the opponent of the Xianguang realm on his own? You must know that the Xianguang realm has integrated one world. There are not many people in the immortal realm, especially the Lord of the Underworld, who has reached a level close to that of an immortal king. It is estimated that after the fusion of the Xianguang realm and the earthly immortal realm, he will completely become an immortal king. Could it be that the senior master of Tianji Tower gave up all the creatures in the three worlds including the earth and immortal world, and planned to support it again, an underworld that swept the heavens? Taishu thought sadly in his heart.